Okay, good evening. We are continuing now on Daf Chav Beis Amud Aleph, the second line Itmar, and we're discussing somebody who learns Mikra, he learns Mishnayos, but he's not Mishamish Tamidei Chachamim. So the Gemara says now Itmar was stated Kara if somebody was reading Chamisha Chum Shetera Vishana and he was learning Mishnayos. However, but he did not give respect to Tamidei Chachamim. Rabbi Elazar says, Harezeh Am Ha'aretz. He's considered an Am Ha'aretz, and an Am Ha'aretz is somebody who is Chosheh. We suspect him that he's not Mafresh Maasis, and therefore you can't trust him if you buy buy produce from an Am Ha'aretz. So you have to now give Meiser again, and as well, we suspect him that he's Mitame also Taris. So it's not like when you want to insult somebody, you call him an Am Ha'aretz, but there's halachic ramifications in the Gemara's terms if a person is the getter of an Am Ha'aretz. So somebody who learns Mikra, he learns Mishnayos, but he's not Mishamish Tamidei Chachamim, he's the getter of an Am Ha'aretz. Rabbi Shloimy Greenwald says, Harezeh Bur. He's worse than an Am Ha'aretz. He's the mamish the getter of a bur. And like the Maharsha explains, an Am Ha'aretz, at least he has derech eretz. A bur, he does not even, he doesn't learn, he's not Mishamish Tamidei Chachamim, and he's not even a menschliche person. Rabbi Yana says, Harezeh Kuti. He has the status of a kuti, and you're not allowed to eat from his bread or drink from his wine. Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov says, Harezeh Magush. He's considered a Magush. What's a Magush? A Magush is a sorcerer. Somebody who uses his knowledge to mislead people. He uses Kishuv. Omar. Yeah, so now the Gemara says, Omar Nachman Bar Yitzchak Mistabra. It makes sense to say that Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov. So it's reasonable to accept the opinion of Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov, the Omri Inshi, because people say, Rotin Magoisha, a sorcerer like chance, he says words, and he doesn't know what he is saying. So too, the Tana is teaching the Mishnah that the Tana teaches the Mishnah and V'layado Mai Omar and does not know what he is saying. So even somebody who learns Mishnayos, but it's not Mishamish Tamidei Chachamim, so like he's learning Mishnayos, but he doesn't really know what he's saying as well. We learned in Abraisa, Ezahu Am Ha'aretz. What's considered an Am Ha'aretz? That we suspect him for, like we said, on Taris, and we suspect him on Maisus, and anything that he touches, we presume that it's Tamei. So he says, the Tanakhama say, Kol she'eni mikra, Kol she'eni kriya shema shachas v'arvis b'berchei se'ah. That he does not read Kriya Shema in the morning, in the evening, and with the brachas. These are the words of Remeir. Chacham say kol she'eni meniach tefillin. Somebody doesn't wear tefillin, he's considered an Am Ha'aretz. Ben Azi says kol she'en lo tzitzis b'bigdei. He doesn't wear tzitzis. Son ben Yosef Amar kol she'esh lebanim ve'en megadlan lu mitera. Somebody who has children, he has sons, but he does not raise them to learn Torah. Others say Remeir afilu keda v'shena leishimish Tamidei Chachamim. If somebody who learns, but he does not serve Tamidei Chachamim, zeu Am Ha'aretz, this is considered like an Am Ha'aretz. Kara v'leishana. So the first state kara v'shena v'leishimish Tamidei Chachamim harez Am Ha'aretz. Kara, if he was reading, he's reading Chamisha Chum Shetera v'leishana, but he was not learning Mishnayos, harez bur, he is considered a bur. And like Kara, V'leishana, if somebody does not he doesn't read Chumash, and not he does not learn Mishnayos, Allah b'kas of Emer, the pasuk says about him that V'zarati as Beis Yisrael, as Beis Yehuda, Zera Adam, Zera Behema, which means that it says, behold the days come, Hashem says, and I will sow the houses of Yisrael and the houses of Yehuda with the seed of man and with the seed of beast. In other words, one who studies is comparable to a behema, like a boar. Pasuk says, Yida es Hashem b'ni v'melech im shenim al tisariv. Pasuk says, my son, fear Hashem and the king, So Yira Hashem is b'ni, v'melech, fear Hashem and the king, im sheinim al tesarov, and which literally means, and meddle not with those who are repeating. Now what does it mean? Im sheinim al tesarov, those who are repeating, don't get involved with them. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, Elu shesheinim halachas. These are individuals who repeatedly learn the halachas, but they don't know the reasons behind them. So the Gemara says, Pshita, it's obvious. How else could you understand Pshat of Im sheinim al tesarov? So the Gemara says, Ma'od tema, you would have said that when the pasuk says sheinim means sheinim bechet, it means individuals who repeatedly commit sins. Uchederav huna, like Rav Huna says, Rav Huna says, Kivan sha'adam over adam avera v'shanaba, that once a person commits a sin and he repeats it, so then hutrala, it's like he thinks now it's permitted to him. So since the pasuk we could learn and interpret in this manner, so therefore Kamash Malan, Rabbi Yisrael teaches us that the pasuk is referring to somebody who learns, but he doesn't learn with understanding. He just learns it like very Kabbalah style, not knowing the taimei behind what he's learning. Okay, Tana, it was taught in a Braisa. Ha-Tanoim, the Tanoim, in other words, who recite sources by route, halacha is mevale ilm. So Tanoim, in other words, people who learn Mishnayos and don't learn Gemara, so it's mevale ilm. They destroy the world. Now, so the Gemara says mevale ilm sokadat. You think somebody who just learns Mishnayos but doesn't learn Gemara is destroying the world? What damage are they doing to anybody? So Ravina says that they paskin dinim from Mishnayos, and everyone knows you can't paskin a din from Mishnayos. You have to know Gemara. You have to know, especially nowadays, you have to know the Rishonim Achronim to properly paskin. So just to paskin from a Mishnah is mevali elam. So the Gemara says, Tanya Namahochi Amar B'Yeshua v'chim mevali elam hein. Those who learn Mishnayos are destroying the world. V'ale miyashve elam hein. L'chayra, they are bringing yishuv to the world. Shnamar, like it says, halichus elam loy. And the Gemara learns from here, al tigre halichus ela halachis. So l'chayra, somebody who learns Mishnayos, it's considered like the world is his, because like Rashi says, he's miskayim b'schusay. So l'chayra, why are you saying that somebody who learns Mishnayos is mevale elam? Ela shemayim alachim mitech Mishnah. So we're referring to people who use Mishnayos and just paskin from there. Then the Mishnah said isha prusha, a isha who's distant, and we said those are mevale elam. So the Gemara says Taran Abana, we learned in a Braisa, psula salyonis, which means a psula who davens. Like the Aruch says, she davens constantly, like day and night. That's all she does. She davens. Ve'almana shivavis, and an almana who's a shivavis. What's an almana shivavis means? A widow who constantly visits her neighbors. And the cotton Kolel L'Horaah, and a child whose months were not completed. They destroy the world. So again, somebody who is a psula who just constantly davens, a widow who's a neighbor who's constantly visiting her neighbors, and a child whose months are not completed, they're mavale ilim. So the Gemara says, "Aini, is it really so?" Says, "Lamadnu yiras chet mipsula." We could learn the idea of yiras chet from a psula to somebody who's davening. V'kibul sachar ma'almana, and the meaning we could learn. We could learn. Aini's a sova. Amar Yechon says Lamani Yeraschet Mepsula. We learn Yeraschet from a Psula. V'kibul Socher Ma'almana, and you could be Mekabel Schar from an Almana. What does that mean? That we could learn from an Almana that who's matriach in the mitzvah in order to be Mekabel Schar. Like the Gemara is going to tell over a story in a second. So the Gemara says Yeraschet. You can learn Yeraschet Mepsula from a Psula. The Rabbi Yechon Shamalahi Psula the Nafla Apa V'Ka'amra. It's like he says that you can learn the fear of sin from a psula. As Rabbi Yechon heard a certain woman who fell on her face in daven, and she says, may be master of the universe, may you created Gan Eden, you created Gehenim, you created the righteous, you created the wicked, so may it be your will that the men shall not stumble because of me and will go to Gehenim. So l'chayda we learn the idea of yiras chet from a psula. And kibo sachar ma'almana. What does it mean? Receiving reward can be learned from a widow. There was a certain widow whose neighborhood there was a shul. Every day she went and she davened in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yechon. Amar la. Rabbi Yechon said to her, "Biti loy Beis Hakneses bishi vavusich." Is there not a shul? Rabbi Yechon said to her, "My daughter, is there not a shul in your neighborhood?" So Amar lei, she said, "Rebbe, do I not get the reward for taking steps and walking to Beis Medrash?" So l'chayra, how could you say that psula tzayilyonis v'amana shevivis are mevale elam faket? Yiras chet you can learn from a psula who said that Ribbon Shalom Yiratzin that nobody should be Yikosh Lubi, and Kiboschar Ma'amana that we see that this Almana she has so many shuls to go to, and she went like to the furthest Beis Medrash to get schar. I gave a shir on Sunday. So this is we started a shir, the Smichas Chover shir. So now we're learning the Hilchos Beis HaKnesses. So I brought a medrash over there. There was a lady. She would live many years, like 700 years, and they were trying to figure out, all the Chachamim over there were trying to figure out like why was she zeichet to Arichas Yomim. So then they figured out that she's going to shul. That she goes to the furthest shul in her neighborhood, and she that's what she's zeichet to Arichas Yomim. Now the Rebbe brings down in Shulchan Aruch. It's in Tzaddik that somebody who goes to shul who it's marich Yom Mushnesav. So and she was complaining to the Chachamim there that she it's time for her to go to Elam Emes. So one of the Chachamim told her, "Don't go to shul for a few days, and you'll be okay." So she didn't go to shul for a few days, and the third day she passed away. So l'chayda we see that the schar ma'almana that she went to Beis HaKnesses, to a Beis Medrash to go daven very far away. The Gemara says Kika Amar, when the Mishnah says that these people are Mevale Elam, the Brisa who says that the Psula who davens constantly is Mevale Elam is talking about Yechoni Bas Retivis. This is like the story of Yechoni Bas Retivis. Who is Yechoni Bas Retivis? She was a woman who constantly davened, and she pretended that she's so holy. But really she engaged in sorcery. She engaged in Mamish Kishuv. And it's brought down. Rashi brings down, the Maratz Chayes brings down that this Yechanan Bas Retivi was an Almana, and she was involved in a lot of kishuv, and she basically, right when a woman was about to give birth, she used her magic, her sorcery, to make the birth very difficult, and there was a lot of pain, and she would make people come to her and daven. "Oh, let me daven for you," and she would take the kishuv away. So one time they came, they saw what she was doing, and they realized that she's involved in kishuv. So such a person who makes herself holy, that she should be in modern day terms, be relevant. So that's Mevale Elam. Now, Ma'al Kotten Shlei Kolel L'Chadoshav. What does it mean of a child whose months were not completed? So Hachi Targimoy, this is what here in Bavel they interpreted as follows. Zed Talmid Chochem Hamevayit B'Rabbeisov. This is somebody, a Talmid Chochem, who scorns his Rabbeisov. Why do we call it Hamevayit? Because his days, somebody who does this, his days are shortened. Rabbi Abba says, what does it mean? This is a Talmud that he did not come to paskin. He doesn't know how to paskin, and nevertheless, maybe he's paskin without getting proper smicha, proper dayanis, proper shimush. The Amar Rav Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. They said, "Kirabim chalalim hipila v'atzumim kol harugel." This is a pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk says, "For she has cast down many wounded." Kirabim chalalim hipila. She has cast down many wounded, and v'atzumim kol harugel, and a mighty host all her slain. Now, what does that mean? So the Gemara says, "Kirabim chalalim hipila." What does it mean? For she has cast down many wounded. This refers to Zatamul Chacham Shalei Gilayda and Meira. This is a Talmud Chacham who is not befitting to paskin, and nevertheless he paskins. So he pila. It's like he's a Moshe Nefel. It's like a katan he's like a child. He's not fit to paskin, and he paskins. Now, what does it mean? Vatzumim kol haruga, and what does it mean? And what does it mean? And a mighty host all her slain. So Talmud Chacham she'gilei Rav einamara. This is the exact opposite. This is a Talmud Chacham who he came to the ability, he has the ability now to paskin, but he doesn't want to paskin. He doesn't, and the problem with that is that he's preventing masses of learning Torah properly. Okay, turn over Daf Chof Beis Amud Beis. So the Gemara asks, V'ad kama, and until what age is it considered too premature for a Talmud Chacham to paskin? So he says, Ad arba shnin, 40 years old. At 40 years old, he's not supposed to paskin. So the Gemara says, Eini, is it really so that somebody who's 40 years old is not allowed to paskin? Until 40, not allowed to paskin? Rabba oidi. The Gemara says that Rabba, who paskined halachis his entire life, and Rabba passed away very, very young. He passed away when he was 40 years old. So obviously, if he paskined, and he passed away when he was 40, we see that a Dayan, a Rav, is allowed to paskin before 40. So the Gemara says, no, really he has to wait till he's 40. And we're talking about that when you have a Talmud Chacham, when he's equal, when he's at the level, when he's equal level, when the Talmud Chacham is at the same level as the Chacham or the Zaken in the ear, then he could paskin. But Stam, a regular person who doesn't have that equality, he's not equal to the senior Rabbanim, so then he should not paskin. Okay, Umakas Prushin, the Gemara says, and those who injure themselves. So he says, Umakas Prushin are those who injure themselves, so they are Mervala Edim. So the Gemara says, Tanar Rabbanon, we learned, Shiva Prushin Hein, there are 7 types of Prushin. Who is that? Parish Shichmi. This is the righteous of Shechem. Parish Nikmi, which is like the self-righteous. So again, Parish Shichmi, Parish Nikfi is people. Parish Nikfi is people who bang themselves. Parish Kazoi, people who are parish with bloodletting. Parish Maducha, people who break. What does that mean? Parish Machivasi Vesena. So this is like people who say, like, what's my obligation, and I will perform it. Parish Ma'ava, people who are righteous due to love. And Parish Meira, those who are righteous due to fear. And the Gemara is going to explain what that means. Parish Shichmi, what does it mean? The righteous of Shechem. What does that mean? Shichmi is Ha'isa Ma'isa Shechem. These are people who perform the acts of the people of Shechem. Right? Which we know, the people of Shechem, they agreed to give a bris, but only for personal gain. So too, this person, he behaves all righteously, but only just to be honored. He doesn't really mean it. Okay, Parish Nikvi. What does it mean? Those who are Parish Nikvi, that they bang, they're Parish of banging. Menakif is Raglav, which means that somebody who bangs his feet. In other words, he walks very, very, like he's a big anov, and he walks like it's very hard for him, and he's walking very slow. Parush, what does it mean? Parush kizoi. Somebody who bangs himself into the wall. He closes his eyes, like he makes it like he doesn't want to look at women, and then through that he's banging himself in the wall because he can't look. So those are people that are also mevali elam. Parush medechia. What is parush medechia? Amar Rabba bar Shela. The mishpa be madecha, that he goes, he's bent over. He walks like and you have a pestle of a mortar. So he bends over like the pestle of a mortar, and he shows that he's also very very humble, but it's really not. It's not true. Okay, Parish machi vasi ve'isena. Then you have a parish who says, what's my choiv, and I'll do it. So the Gemara says, hamali yusihi. This is a maila. He's just saying, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. So Ella Da'amar, rather he says, Machi Vasi Tu Ve'asena. I'm only going to do what my obligation is, and I'm not going to do anything more. Parish Ma'ava, what does Parish Ma'ava mean? Parish Miyira. What does Parish Ma'ava? Parish Miyira. So Amarle Abaya V'Rava Latana. So Abaya and Rava said to the Tana, who transmitted the Brisa, like Tisni Parish Ma'ava, Parish Miyira. Do not say that those who are righteous due to love and those who are righteous due to fear is like Mavala Elam. Why? Because we have a famous expression. A person should always engage in learning Torah, even Shlei Lishma. Because if he learns Torah not for the sake of Teda, just whatever. He has ulterior motives. We know, eventually somebody who learns, even not for the sake of Teda, one comes to perform for the sake of Teda. Okay, so then the Taisvis brings over here, the Gemara in Tainus says that that anybody who learns Teda Shlei Lishma, it's like it's like poison. So, and we know Kol Ha'isik B'Teda Shlei Lishma Neich Shlei Nivra. So here he's saying that Mitei Shlei Lishma Balishma. Yet we have other Mekaydas in Shas that say that somebody who learns Shlei Lishma, first of all, it's like making a Samamaves and Neich Shlei Nivra. So there's many different answers, but basically when he's learning Teda to whatever, he wants to be respected or whatever. So he's saying Mitei Shlei Lishma Balishma. A person's learning Teda, lachtich kardam, or to whatever, to use Teda to learn more, to use it against how Teda is wrong, and to show how wise he is, that's Neich Shlei Nivra. Fine. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said, mitamra. That which is hidden is hidden. Megalya, and that which is revealed is revealed. Beidina Rabba lispara mahani dechofu gudne. And the great court, in other words, the great Beis Din in heaven, will exact punishment for those who wear like a cloak of righteousness, but are in fact unworthy. Amar la Yanei Malka de Besa. The Gemara relates that Rabbi Yanei said to his wife before he died, do not be afraid of the Prussian. And neither should you fear those who are not Prussian. But you should be very careful of like hypocrites who Jama'aseyim Kemaisa Zimri, that they appear, the hypocrites, and they look like they look very Prussian, they look very Parish. But Ma'aseh Maisa Zimri, their acts are like the act of wicked of Zimri, and they request a reward like Pinchas of the Tzaddik. Okay, we'll stop here, Mitzvah Shem. Let's do a quick chazar. I know it's a little bit early. Okay, just a few announcements. So tomorrow, after davening, Mitzvah Shem, we'll do Daf. Okay, it's a new mission, that's why I stopped there. So we'll do what? I think 8:30. It's 8:35, 8:40. We'll do. We'll learn Mr. Shem Daf Chof Gimel, and then at 2:00 we'll do. We'll learn Shabbos Chof Dalid, and then we'll start again. Right? Tomorrow officially Friday night is Chof Gimel, so we'll do that tomorrow after davening, and then we'll learn again at 2:00 tomorrow. We'll do the next plot, and then the next year in person will be after that will be Sunday night. Fine. All right, so we started off saying, Itmar, we learned that somebody who learns Mikra, and he learns Mishnayis, but he's not Mishamish Talmidei Chachamim. So Rabbi Lazar says he's an Amoris, Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says he's a Bor, Rabbi Yanai says he's a Kuti, others say he's a Magush, he's a sorcerer, and Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Mistamra, that it means that he's a Magush, because what is people who say things, but it's not coherent, you don't know what he's saying, so too somebody who learns Mishnayis, but it's not Mishamish Talmidei Chachamim, also he doesn't know what he's saying. Tana Rabbanan, who's an Amoritz? Anybody who does not say Kriya Shema in the morning and the Arvis with the brachas. That's what Meir says. Chacham says, Kol She'eino Meniach Tefillin. Benazi says, anybody who doesn't wear tzitzis on his beged. Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef says, anybody who has children, he doesn't teach them to learn Torah. He doesn't raise them to learn Torah. Others say, even if he learns, but he's not Meshamish Talmidei Chachamim, that's considered Na'am Oretz. If he learns Mikra, but he doesn't learn Mishnayis, he's a Bor. If he doesn't do any of them, then the Pasuk says, V'zaratis, Beis Yisrael, Beis Yehuda, Zera Adam, Zera Behema, that he's compared to an animal. Then the Pasuk says, Yira Hashem es b'ni, fear my son Hashem, V'melech and the king, Im Sheinim al Tisorav, and don't mingle with those who are Sheinim. So Rabbi Yitzchak says, this means somebody who learns halachas without knowing the reason. So the Gemara says, obviously. The Gemara answers and says, I would think that Sheinim means that he's repeating his sin, as Rabbi says, somebody who's Eben Avera and he constantly does it and he repeats it, so Hutrolai, he thinks it's mutter, and therefore when we say in our pasuk, Sheinim, it means people halachas. Tana hatanoim mevale elam. So the Gemara says, Tanoim, the Mavali Eilam. So the Gemara says, rather, it means that people that paskin from Mishnais. Are they destroying the world? Rather, Isha Prusha, the Gemara says, Amravale Elam. Tara Rabbanan, a psula who davens excessively, and almana in the neighborhood, who's amongst her neighbors, and katan shlei kolel chadashav, a katan who's didn't the months were not complete. They're Mavale Elam. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yechlan told us that he learned Yiras Chet from a psula, and Kibos Sachar Ma'amana. And Yiras Chet, he brought the story that Rabbi Yechlan heard this woman saying that Hashem, you created Gan Eden, you created Gehenim, you created Tzaddikim, you created Rishayim, and Yirat that nobody should stumble because of me. And Kibos Sachar Ma'amana, there was a woman there's an almana that used to go, had many shuls in her neighborhood, and she would daven Dafkin Rabbi Yechlan shul. And Rabbi Yechlan said, you don't have other shuls in your neighborhood? So she told Rabbi Yechlan, don't I get reward for walking? So the Chayra, we see that Fakir, not only are they not Mevale Elam, but you can learn from them. So the Gemara says, when he said Mevale Elam, it's like Yechlan ben Basra TV, and we explain, like Rashi says that this was an almana, and she used to do kishuv, and when ladies would come to give birth, she would stop the leda, and then they would come to her and daven, and then they realized that she's using kishuv. What does it mean? So he says that Talmud Chacham HaMevayit B'Rabbesav. This is a Talmud Chacham who is Mevayit to his teachers. Abba says it's a Talmud Chacham that did not come to the stage of paskening, and he paskened. As we know, Kidam Chalala Mipila Vasum Kol Rugel. So he said the first pasuk Kidam Chalala Mipila is a Talmud Chacham that should not pasken, but he's paskening, and Kol Rugel means a Talmud Chacham who knows how to pasken and he stays away from it. So that's also a problem. Fine. Then we stand up Chav Beis Amud Beis. How old could he be? How old does he have to be Meir Hira? So the Gemara says 40 years old. So he asks Barabba, who died when he was 40 and paskin for many years. So the Gemara answers B'Shavin. If the Dayan is equal in Chachma like the others, then he can paskin. Umakas Prushan is also Mevale Elam. So we said there are 7 types of Prushan. We said there's a Prushi Parish Shichmi, Parish Nikvi, Parish Kizoi, Parish Meduchi, Parish Machivasi, Vesena, Parish Ma'ava, Parish Meir. 7. So the Gemara says, what does it mean Parish Meshichmi? Somebody who does Ma'aseh Shechem. Parish Nikvi is somebody who bangs his feet on the ground. He makes he's walking slow. He's making like he's all very holy. Parish Kizoi means somebody who bangs him, like he closes his eyes and he bangs his body in the wall because he can't see. He doesn't want to look at Nashim. Parish Meduchi means that he bent himself over like a pestle. Parish Machivasi ve'esena. So the Gemara asks, that's a very good thing. Rather, he's just saying Machivasi su ve'esena. I'm only going to do what I have to, and more, I'm out. Parish Ma'ava, Parish Me'ira. So Abaye Nava says, don't teach Parish Ma'ava, Parish Me'ira, because we know we have a din. Le'elim yasik adam atedo mitzvah afilu shleilishma shemitesh shleilishma balishma. Amar Menachem Yitzchak. So he says that which is hidden, that which is revealed, and Medina Rabbo, and he says then he said weiter that the Beis Din Agadol Shalmaila, everything is revealed, and it's going to repay those who are falsely mentioned. Amar lo Yanei Malka said to his wife, don't worry about the Prushim because they're tzaddikim. Don't worry about people who are not Prushim, because they are lovers. Rather, be careful from the hypocrites. They look like Prushim, but Ma'aseim Kamasi Zimri. Their actions are Ma'aseh Zimri, and yet they come and they want to be Mekabel Socher like Pinchas. Okay, have a good night.